Welcome to Martini Time. Well, see, I've got a I've got a glare on my glass there. Where is that coming from? It's coming from that light. Okay, that's good. All right, I hope you set your clocks back. We gained a whole hour. I set my clock back. Oh, me. Okay. So I wanted to talk about the bull from the sea. I was just reading again and again. I've read it several times. Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces. And I just had an urge to revisit it. And as I was reading the first chapter, he was talking about Theseus and the labyrinth and the Minotaur and Ariadne and King Minos and his queen Pasiphae. I guess how I pronounce it. And oh, wait a minute, I forgot my drink here. Can't talk without a sip of gin. So, I think I talked about the Theseus and the Minotaur. This is my favorite myth. This myth is so great. But I was just reading this. I was refreshed about the history of it, how the Minotaur came in, and I'll share that with you. So there was King Minos of Crete, which was a great civilization, and he was fighting with his brothers for the crown, and he wanted to win the crown and become king of Crete. So he asked Poseidon to give him the crown, and that he prayed to Poseidon, and he asked for Poseidon to send him a bull from the sea, and he would sacrifice that bull. He would and become king. So Poseidon sent the bull from the sea, a great white, beautiful bull. And Minos liked it so much that he decided to do what's called a merchant swap. He swapped another bull for it so he could keep this white bull in his herd. Swapped another one. So he didn't do the sacrifice. So he became king. And but he didn't do the sacrifice. And so his kingdom began to fall apart. And his queen, Poseidon, Pasiphae, had this obsession, fell in love with the bull. And so Poseidon sent a bull. And she had Daedalus, the archetypal scientist, create a wooden cow so she could get in this wooden cow and mate with the bull, which was, they're all gods, so don't worry about it. It's all mythology, it's all gods. And she gave birth to the Minotaur, who was body of man but the head of a bull. And so Minos, in his shame, had Daedalus build a labyrinth, intricate maze. Daedalus couldn't even get out of it half the time. And so he put the Minotaur in the labyrinth, but it had to be fed by sacrifice. So every year, the countries he conquered would send their youth to be sacrificed to the Minotaur. And Theseus, the hero with 1,000 faces, a hero, decided he would go into the labyrinth, into the unconscious, and face the Minotaur, the shame buried in our unconscious, the sense of being unworthy, this sense of being a defect, something's wrong, this shame, this pain. Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body, hidden in the labyrinth of the unconscious mind. So Theseus goes down into the labyrinth, and he kills the Minotaur. But before he went in, Ariadne, a virgin, daughter of the king, fell in love with him, made a bargain. I'll tell you how to get out of the labyrinth. You get me out of this island, away from this father, this tyrant. And so he said, sure. And so she gave him a ball of yarn. Just tie it to the entrance, unravel it, and then you can follow it way out. Ariadne's thread. Ah, if we could just have one of those, we could go into the labyrinth of our unconscious, kill the pain body, come back with a boon to mankind. You see. But what was curious here was that King Minos, failed to sacrifice the bull. Now this is symbolic of Trump. Aha. You see, Trump failed to sacrifice the bull. He failed to sacrifice his personal aggrandizement for the office of the president, or the role of the president. This is very obvious. He can't say, I'm president. Am I really president? He has maintained his personal egocentric power. So he has never made the sacrifice that most other presidents do when they give up their personal life, their personal power, their personal entanglements, their businesses. They give it all up and sacrifice their personal powers for the powers of the president. So then they become operating as a president, which is a role, a mythic role, an office that has powers in itself, the powers to unite, you see. So the president's role is the power of the one that includes the many, which is all the people, you see. So the president is the mythic power of the one that unites the people through his person, through his flesh and blood. So it's kind of a Christ role. You know, the person who takes on the role of the president is a sacrificial being. They have to sacrifice their ego and their personal power in order to become that role. So they're born again into that role. And then, of course, we set up our Constitution sets it up so you're only president for 4 to 8 years. That way you don't become a lifelong dictator or king, you see. So this was a check against dynasty, against divine right of the monarchy, you see. So anyway, the presidential role, the power of the presidency, the power to unite the country is only 4 to 8 years. So this is a mythic, it's the mythic role of the dying and resurrected Son. So people say, oh, we have a Christian foundation. Well, yeah, there's a mythic Christian foundation in the fact that Christ was the dying and resurrected Son of God. So the president is the dying and resurrected Son of the nation. You see. So he dies to his ego, and he's resurrected as president. Big ceremony, big transitional passage, coronation, parade. It's a big deal. The coronation of the president, which is the same as the dying and resurrected Son of mythology that is in all the movies and in all the myths and all the national stories and everything. This is what Joseph Campbell is writing about, the universal myth of the hero, the dying and resurrected Son. So this myth takes form in all kinds of places and rituals and cultures and societies because it is a universal form of nature itself. Nature dies and is resurrected. Life is the dying and resurrected Son. Life dies. Life lives to be eaten. Life eats life. Life is dying. Life dies and is resurrected as life. The dying and resurrected Son is a mythological representation of the death of life itself. Life and death are one. Boom, you see. But we split it apart. Say, oh, death here, resurrection here. What do I have to do to get resurrected? See, we create time. So I got to die here. I got to give up this, but how long does it take before I get resurrected, before I get reborn? So what do I have to do? What's the means to this end, you see? Oh, you have to do this and that, meditate and do yoga and all that stuff, you see, in order to get to the end, you see. Means is separated from the end, creates time. But we're all the dying and resurrected Son. Whenever you give up anything, that's a death and a resurrection. When you give up holding on and you let go, that's a death, and you're resurrected. You're liberated from the weight and the stress and the pain of what you were clinging to. When we cling, we're holding on to life in fear because we don't believe that we let go, we'll be resurrected. There's no trust, you see. So we cling to life because we fear that if I let go, who will I be? I don't trust that there's anything there if I let go. You see, if I let go of the rope, I don't trust there is life there to catch me, that I'll be born again. But I can't know what being born again is unless I let go. So you can't, as long as you're hanging on, there's no way you can know what resurrection is. It's like the caterpillar has no idea what the butterfly is. But he lets go of his worm nature and he's born again, you see. So this is not a religious thing. This is not contained in religion and mythology and story and scripture. While it's there, the theme is there, but it's a universal theme. It's in our movies, it's in our love life, it's in our marriage, it's in our homes, relationships, it's everywhere. The dying and resurrection. And see, what happens is, because we live in a world of, we've created time, we spread these apart. So giving up here, how long will I get to that? You see, so we say, well, I won't give it up unless I have some insurance that I'll get resurrected. I need a little insurance. I need a sign. I need some proof that if I let go, I'll get the goods. I'll get resurrected, or enlightenment, or whatever, you see. So there's always this bargain. There's always this merchant swap, you see, of King Minos, who would not make the sacrifice, so he swapped another bull in there so he could keep a little for himself, you see. Keep a little something back, a little something aside, in case it doesn't work. Little insurance policy, you see. That's failed sacrifice. That's the failure of sacrifice, you see. And then you become egocentric. You become a tyrant monster. You become the tyrant monster, you see. And so getting back to Trump, here we have somebody who failed the sacrifice of giving up his Trump power for the presidency, and he's becoming a force for disunity instead of unity. And we can see the nation descend into fragmentation. We can watch our nation descend into fragmentation, which appears as insane behavior, like these mass shootings. We can say, oh, well, the mass shooting is because that guy was crazy or he was a terrorist or whatever. Well, that's one way of looking at it, but it's a narrow way of looking at it. So if we look at it from a broader context, you see, we can see it the disintegration or the insanity that our society is creating because of a failed sacrifice. And we're all failing in the sacrifice because we're clinging to the old. We're clinging to the old systems. The world is changing. and we're not letting go so we can be reborn or regenerated or resurrected as a new America that fits and is in alignment with the new reality of the world. So we're regressing and going back, you see, to cling to the old idea. Economic nationalism and all these is regression, you see. And so the parts then become at war with each other. So you have fake news against true news and true news against fake news. And this is all the fragmentation that's going on. But this fragmentation, this dismemberment, is all part of the myth, you see. Before the hero, before the new birth, there is always fragmentation and dismemberment. Dismemberment. In the Eucharist, you have the whole thing right there. The bread is broken apart, you see. And then there is the consuming of the pieces of the whole, and the whole is contained in each piece, so one becomes whole by eating the piece of the whole. So when you break the whole apart, the whole cannot be broken apart, but it's fragmented for the sacrifice, and when you eat the whole becomes you. You become whole again. That's the ritual understanding, as I understand it, underpinning of it, you see. Perfection is whole. It cannot be broken apart. So every piece is perfect, just like, DNA. Every cell has the DNA of the whole organism. So you can clone a whole organism from one piece of it. So the whole is in the piece. The whole acorn, the whole oak tree is in the acorn. Every piece, every acorn, my backyard's full of them, is a potential whole oak tree, you see. So if I eat the acorn, I eat the whole tree. So that's the idea of the dismemberment and the resurrection of wholeness, that the whole is born out of each part, you see. Eat the seeds, grow the whole. So there's breaking apart, and then there's rebirth, you see. So I don't know, perhaps our nation is going through a search for Ariadne's thread, which will lead us out of the labyrinth of this dismemberment we're going through, the dismemberment of America. Oh, we long for the old America when everybody was one, you see. And I mentioned this the other night. Even in England after World War II, these were the British mysteries, and they were wondering what happened to the unity they felt during the Blitz, during the war. The unity and the excitement, and even though people were dying, the feeling of being alive, and everybody was special, everybody had meaning, everybody was something, everybody was absolutely special. From the top to the bottom, everybody worked. And this was a feeling of totality and oneness. And then after the war, everybody fell back into, I'm an accountant, and I'm doing a housewife, and I'm doing these mundane works. And they were feeling depression from the wholeness and the closeness everyone felt to everyone else. And this is what America, we feel in disasters. I don't know, maybe these mass shootings are basically rituals of rebirth, in the sense that the mass shooting, or even the hurricane, for instance, the hurricane comes and destroys everything, and then everybody becomes, they're all like MacGyver. Everybody's making stuff out of junk, and everybody's working, and everybody's creating a new community and making do with what they got, and everybody feels special, and everybody's helping everybody. And then society comes, civilization comes back, and everybody falls back into their placement. They fall back into their hierarchical places oh, well, they're more special than me. I'm just the milkman and he's that, you see. And everybody is relatively special. But during tragedies, everybody is special. Everybody's absolutely special. So that's the funny thing about as we look at these shootings. There was just one at Texas. And the ritual will be now, well, why did this happen? Who did it? What caused it? And then the frustration, well, guns, can't get rid of guns. What's wrong with us? And then there'll be the parade of victims. And all these people will be special. And all their pictures will be up on the TV. And flowers will be laid out. All these innocent people, all the victims, you see, they're so special. I'm not saying they're not special. I'm just saying it's only in death that they're recognized as being special. Without the mass shooting, they're just everyday people, oh, humdum, you know, so you play boring husband, boring wife, nobody's special. Everybody's looking for the resurrection tomorrow, you see. What do I have to do to get some excitement back in my life? So I'm just, just commenting on this and just musing on it, maybe it's the martini. But I look at it in terms of broader angles of cultural rituals from a mythological framework, and it's very helpful to understand the broader picture with a little background of mythology and an understanding that we're not just a bunch of marbles bumping around, each choosing to do these bad things because we're evil. You see, that there's a broader field here. There's a broader field of activity here that is driven by unconscious forces, by greater forces than just individual choice, you see. And so these are great mythic tides, great mythic currents that flow through human society. Great mythic undercurrents, you see, that flow through our psyches. We're all, thanks to Freud and Jung, we all are aware of psychic forces that pop up during dreams or symbolism. We're becoming very aware of that, very sensitive to that. We're more than just things bumping into each other. Consciousness is more than just our little room up here in the middle of our head, you see. There's a great vast psyche there, collective and individual. And we've compressed ourselves into a tiny little room of consciousness. And we think we're aware of everything. We're kind of like a mahout riding on a great elephant, you see. And we think we're tapping the elephant and it's going where we want it to go. Life is going where it wants to go. And we think we're directing it. We're not. You see, so it's important to understand the greater themes, the greater mythic currents. So anyway, my bell rang. So thanks for dropping in, and I'll see you tomorrow.